Now, 2020 has been an odd year in many ways, but for the Nintendo Switch in particular, things have been pretty up and down. We've had smash hits like Animal Crossing, some remakes, and classic older titles being ported to the console, but at the same time, there's still been that lack of major new stuff. Obviously, the pandemic has put many operations related to something as small in the grand scheme of things as gaming on hold, but for 2021, are things looking up? Could the Switch be heading in a better direction? Well, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm Siiroth, and we're going to be breaking down 10 question marks surrounding next year for the Switch, tying in rumors with what I generally believe to be likely or possible to be seen from the console, giving an outlook of what we could be expecting to see while not getting too far-fetched, but we gotta be hopeful, right? Also, if you're new here, consider subscribing and ticking the bell icon so that you do not miss anything new, and with all that being said, let's get started. The first big subject related to Nintendo's 2021 that I wanted to discuss today was The Legend of Zelda's 35th anniversary. Yeah, there was all this big celebration for Super Mario 35 this year. We got a whole direct of game reveals. We got the big remastered collection with the 3 games. I mean, if you really want to call it a remastered collection, that's up to you. But regardless of how much you enjoyed everything that was revealed individually, you got to admit that they were trying to make an effort. So what about The Legend of Zelda? Probably Nintendo's third biggest long-standing series behind Mario and Pokemon. Pokemon's already announced plans to celebrate their 25th anniversary, and yes, we're going to get to that a little bit later. So Zelda's got to be having something too, right? Well, I believe we could certainly bet a yes on this, because there's definitely some things in the pipeline and some things that would line up. First of all, I'm not going to guarantee that Breath of the Wild 2 is going to come out next year or anything like that, but I think it's very likely. Being revealed in mid-2019 in their E3 presentation, this was Nintendo's big reveal at the end of it all, and there was no release date or tease or anything of that nature. But I got a feeling that it's got to be coming out relatively soon, right? Yes, the original Breath of the Wild was delayed and delayed and delayed, but this one is using the same engine that's already developed, and yes, I'm no expert in this field by any means, but that's definitely lessening the workload because you don't have to build it from scratch. In a similar fashion to how Majora's Mask was able to be developed in a quicker time frame because it used the assets from Ocarina of Time. It was able to be made within a year. So I would think that within a year and a half from the game's reveal, it's got to be coming out, right? So I think that this would probably be Nintendo's big holiday release for next year, and I don't think it's too much of a stretch. It goes perfectly along with the 35th anniversary theming as well. But what else would there be? There could be some older Legend of Zelda titles ported to the Nintendo Switch, or completely remade for that matter, just to celebrate the legacy and the history of the series. Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons are 2 games that I see brought up a lot in this category, and they could definitely be ported or made available on the Nintendo Switch Online service or something of that nature to celebrate the history of the series. I don't know about a remake because I do think there is another game likely to be remade, probably more likely than those 2. And this would be Skyward Sword. Yes, it's the Zelda 35th anniversary, and yes, I already think Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be coming out, so we've got a 3D Zelda releasing already. But Skyward Sword being remade and released earlier on in the year compared to Breath of the Wild 2, it'll probably sell really well. This would also be 10 years since the release of the original Skyward Sword, and come on man, it would just make such good use of the Joy-Con technology mimicking the Wii remotes, and hopefully we'll get a better control scheme and it'll be a little more intuitive compared to the original release of the game. I don't know necessarily how likely it is that we get both a Skyward Sword remake and Breath of the Wild 2 next year, but I definitely think one of a Skyward Sword remake, or the port of Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, or a potential remake of that, would be likely to go along with it. It can't just be one Legend of Zelda game coming out next year, even something as big as Breath of the Wild 2. There's got to be a little bit more to this. Moving on to another big topic in this category being Mario Kart 9. This is something that I do think has a slight chance for next year, and I'll explain why. I know there's a lot of you out there that have been watching the channel for a long time, and I really appreciate that, and for those of you who have, you'll probably know that I make this type of video every single year. It's one of my favorite videos to create because there's so much open-endedness for the speculation, because Nintendo doesn't normally reveal their games 4 or 5 years ahead of time. There's a lot of games that are revealed and released in the same year. But the reason that I'm mentioning this is because if you recall to last year's video in this vein, there were leaks around that time of a new Mario Kart game releasing the year after. Fast forward to the end of 2020, and yes, there was a Mario Kart game released, being the in-home version of Mario Kart where you could drive it around and all that. It's a unique idea, but it's not Mario Kart 9 as it was initially rumored. Yes, this is a new Mario Kart game, and there were some rumors just suggesting that the big holiday title for the Switch will have tires, which this does. It is Mario Kart, but it's not the original Mario Kart 9 rumor that was out there, and I still think Mario Kart 9 has to be a thing eventually. There's been no new mainline Nintendo console that has not had a brand new Mario Kart game exclusive to it in the mainline series. The Nintendo Switch hasn't had that yet. It's had this Mario Kart Live game, and it's had an enhanced port of Mario Kart 8, both of which definitely have an appeal to a large market. Obviously, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the best-selling game on the console, but Mario Kart 9 would appeal to a lot of people as well. We're looking for something new in terms of a core entry to the series. A new Paper Mario game was accurately predicted in the same leak that predicted Mario Kart 9, so it's definitely possible that the pandemic impacted this and it got pushed back to 2021. This could definitely be something on the horizon, and it may have been intended to release this year, and Mario Kart Live could have been potentially released as a backup option. The third thing that I want to talk about today is an update to the Nintendo Switch online service. There are a lot of different ways we could go about this, but I just gotta start with the obvious. It's underwhelming as is right now. Being able to play NES games, SNES games, Tetris 99, and Mario 35, although only until March 31st, gotta remember that one, thank you Nintendo, is still pretty underwhelming. There aren't too many other benefits to being a member. I mean, you get to play games online, but the online service that Nintendo provides isn't even remotely comparable to their competitors, so I'm not really sure that Nintendo is really putting enough effort in to justify the price tag here. But throughout this year, throughout the pandemic and all of that, could Nintendo have been cooking up something new for this online service? I think there's definitely potential. Look, if Mario 35 is going off the service on March 31st, what are they going to do with that? It's probably not going to be deleted forever. Either Mario 35 has some sort of new version with it in a physical release, or there's going to be some sort of update to it, or there's going to be a Legend of Zelda version of it released next year that's going to be added to the Switch Online service, so that could definitely be something to go along with that 35th anniversary. But I think there's just got to be a new wave of games coming out for it next year. We've waited too long now. Got to be Game Boy Advance, something like that. I doubt we're ever going to get to the GameCube level that a lot of people want. Maybe we'll get to the N64 level before the Switch's lifespan is over, but right now I've just been so underwhelmed, and I think that with the amount of backlash that it's been having, Nintendo has to come out with something new here. The fourth subject that I wanted to talk about today, fittingly, is Metroid Prime 4. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one because we obviously don't know much about this, so it's very open-ended, but I will bet on this, we're going to get something related to Metroid Prime 4 next year. In my video last year about the same topic, I wasn't entirely sure that we'd even get a teaser this year. I thought we'd get something, but the pandemic might have screwed that up. We might have been intended to get a teaser. Obviously, there haven't been many directs or anything like that, so we probably would have gotten one had things been normal and the development not been slowed down. In January of 2019, it was announced that Metroid Prime 4 has been delayed because it's restarting development. This is not just a normal delay, they're starting from scratch here. Now, I assume they made this announcement a while after they made the official decision and started working on it to solidify things, but that's still a long time. The pandemic has definitely not helped out that development time frame, so if you were thinking Metroid Prime 4 is going to be releasing in 2022 or something like that, it may not be as feasible anymore. But I am pretty certain that we're going to be getting some sort of a teaser or something next year. We have to. It's going to have been 4 years since the initial reveal. It's going to be a long time. And speaking of a long time since the reveal, the number 5 entry on this list, what's happened with Pikmin 4, man? We got the reveal of Pikmin 3 Deluxe coming to the Nintendo Switch this year, and I mean, is that something that people really wanted? I mean, if you wanted to play it badly and you didn't own a Wii U, this could be a good thing for you. But I was just laughing when that was revealed, because that's definitely not the Pikmin reveal that fans were hoping for. It was in 2015 in an interview when Shigeru Miyamoto was asked about Pikmin 4, and he said, it's almost done development. And yeah, here we are, 5 years later, still nothing about Pikmin 4, nothing. We got the release of Hey Pikmin since then, and that could have potentially been the Pikmin 4 that he was referring to, but that game was blatantly a spin-off. It was so obviously not a mainline Pikmin game. It doesn't look like any of the other Pikmin games, it doesn't play like any of them, it's not even released for a home console. Hey Pikmin, in my mind, is not Pikmin 4. So, what happened to it then? Pikmin 4 is definitely one of the biggest Nintendo mysteries out there. Fans might dissect it for years and years, and I'm positive that we're going to be getting a new Pikmin game eventually, but will it come next year? I don't know about a release, but I think a reveal is pretty likely because it's just been so long now. Had something been completely screwed up in that development process that when he said it was almost done, it restarted development like Metroid Prime 4, even if something critical like that happened, we'd still probably be on pace for a Pikmin 4 release, either next year or the year after, if it had restarted development soon after that time period. The sixth thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is actually a rumor that's going on right now, but something that I think is very likely outside of the rumor. This being a new Mario Golf game. Now, there's Nintendo rumors that come out all the time that say, oh, this game's going to be coming out and this game's going to be coming out. Some of them are true, some of them are false. Unless they're a really credible source, I don't tend to report them as if it's something that's going to happen. But when Mario Golf was brought up as a potential game, I had to think about it for a second, and even excluding any rumors, I think it's extremely likely that we get it next year, and here's why. First of all, the development team behind Mario Golf, and most of the Mario sports games for that matter, is Camelot, and has been Camelot for a while. Camelot's last game was Mario Tennis Aces in 2017, and if we're going to be getting a new Mario sports game, it's definitely not going to be a tennis game if they already made one for the Switch. So they've got to be releasing one soon, right? It's been a long time since they've gone 4 years without releasing a new game. I think there's got to be one next year. The pandemic has probably put one on hold, and Mario Golf I think would be the most likely. If Mario Golf releases next year, it would have been 4 years since the last one in 2017 with Mario Sports Superstars, and it would have been 7 years since the last full entry on the 3DS. So we'd definitely be in line to be getting a new Mario Golf by that point. I know that many fans, including myself, really want a new Mario Strikers or a new Mario Baseball, one of those two series, but I just don't think they're as likely. Nintendo tends to go with tennis and golf very often as opposed to the other sports, and while I do have some enjoyment in those titles, definitely not as much as the other two that I mentioned, Mario Golf could definitely be something that's releasing next year. It's shaping up to be that way. Question mark number 7 for Nintendo in 2021, with this being the possibility of the Nintendo Switch Pro being announced. Now, if you want to talk about rumors, this is something that's been rumored by so many sources for such a long time. The idea of a Nintendo Switch Pro being a thing makes so much sense in principle that most rumors could probably be believable, even without having any valid source behind them, just because of how likely it seems. But something that I believe adds to this is another rumor, that Nintendo has been asking developers for 4K support for future releases, which means that since the base model of the Nintendo Switch cannot handle 4K, a new console would have to be in the works for that report to be a reality. That just adds further credence to the idea of a Nintendo Switch Pro releasing, and next year I think would be a good time to do it. The base model of the Nintendo Switch released in 2017, 2 years later, the Lite version of the Switch released in 2019, providing a cheaper alternative for people who don't want to go all in on a full Switch, and man, 2 years after that would be 2021, so things seem to be lining up pretty well for a Nintendo Switch Pro next year. I think it's desperately time for a hardware upgrade for Nintendo. They've had good relationships with third parties throughout the Switch era, but that's mostly been because the Switch has been very financially successful and it's lucrative for these third parties to get their games on the console, not necessarily because the Switch is very accommodating of that. A lot of games have to be downscaled for the Switch, and for the developers who are not able to downscale their games enough, they just simply cannot give them out to Nintendo fans to buy, which is severely limiting their market potential. It would be good for third-party developers, it would be good for Nintendo mutually to get more sales on their console, it would just be a win-win. The Switch Pro, I think, has got to release next year. Item number 8 that we're talking about today is the potential of a new Fire Emblem remake releasing next year. The reason that I say this is because in 2017, the year after the release of Fire Emblem Fates, we got the release of Fire Emblem Echoes Shadow of Valentia on the 3DS, a remake of an older Fire Emblem game. This does not necessarily mean, obviously, that we need to get a remake the year after Three Houses releases, but there is a precedent set for something like this. But if we don't get a remake, I think we definitely 100% get the reveal of the 2022 mainline Fire Emblem title. And here's why. A new mainline Fire Emblem game has released at least once every 3 years since the inception of the series. Fire Emblem is a series that tends to have its games revealed at least a year before its release, so 2021 I think could definitely be that time. Obviously the pandemic may have changed things. Three Houses was also a very big title in terms of size and the amount of time that it probably took to develop, so that may put other Fire Emblem games for the future on the back burner. But never say never. I think there's definitely a lot of potential for it. The next thing that I wanted to talk about today is not necessarily a game, but it's a hardware device that Nintendo seems to be developing. There is a Switch health tracking device reportedly in development that could aid in some fitness games that are available on the console. and I think we should expect to know more about this. This device is rumored to be able to track sleep quality and the mood of the person that's using it, which is pretty interesting and kind of creepy. But I really wonder what Nintendo would want to do with technology like this. Maybe it could be incorporated into a future game like Ring Fit Adventure, something along those lines, more self-development type games. Obviously, Wii Fit was very financially successful for the Wii, and Ring Fit Adventure has taken off for the Switch, so there's definitely a big potential in that fitness and wellness market combined with video games. So I think that this report coming out definitely has some validity. It definitely seems like something that Nintendo would do, and if this is the case, then we got to be seeing something about it next year, and it's very likely to release next year as well, according to the rumors that's out there. Along with that, we could potentially be getting a new IP to go along with this game, if it has to be incorporated with a specific title and it's not being integrated with ones already released like Just Dance and Ring Fit that get you actively moving during gameplay. And the final big question mark for the Nintendo Switch is Pokemon's 25th anniversary. What is gonna happen? We could certainly expect some big things to happen for the Zelda 35th anniversary, but the Pokemon 25th anniversary has already been confirmed to be getting some stuff. Pokemon has already been teasing it on their official Twitter handle that there's stuff in store for their 25th anniversary next year, asking people, oh, what do you expect and all that. And a rumor that came out a while ago is that there's going to be 3 retro Pokemon games being ported to the Switch. Not remade, ported, and allegedly for full price, with these being Pokemon Red, Pokemon Gold, and Pokemon Ruby. Those 3 games are all one version of their collective duos, so there could potentially be 2 versions of this remastered collection releasing, one having Blue, Silver, and Sapphire. And if those are going to be full price for 3 old releases, that is going to be even more ridiculous than 3D All-Stars is. That is going to be one of the most ridiculous things I will ever see from this company, and that is saying something. But aside from that, on a more positive note, if that rumor is true or whatever, it could still be releasing earlier on in the year. You don't have to buy it if you don't want to. That's the key in all of this. It's not like you're going to be missing out on much, right? You could play those games on the 3DS Virtual Console. The big thing that most people are concerned about are the potential Diamond and Pearl remakes. Now, yes, I know everything was lining up perfectly for a 2020 release of Diamond and Pearl remakes, but we ended up getting Sword and Shield DLC instead to supplement that. But I think that seeing the track record of recent Pokemon games, the more development time given, the better the quality will be. And there hasn't usually been a lot of time recently for these Pokemon games to just marinate and develop and be given more time for polish. Diamond and Pearl have been due for remakes for a few years now, and next year on the 25th anniversary, I think would definitely be the time to do it. That would be a big holiday release for Pokemon. If not Diamond and Pearl remakes, I genuinely have no idea what their big holiday release would be. Maybe Let's Go Johto, although I know that'll piss a lot of people off. Let's Go Johto might not make as much sense to release either if you're going to be including Pokemon Gold and potentially Silver and remastered collections that come out earlier on. You know, it seems kind of weird, but that's just how I feel about it. I think Diamond and Pearl remakes are extremely likely for next year, and I know I said that last year as well, but this is the big 25th anniversary. It has to happen now. If it doesn't happen in the 8th generation, when's it gonna happen? In 4th gen, we got the remakes of Gen 2, and 6th gen, we got the remakes of Gen 3. 8th gen is lining up for remakes of Gen 4. I think next year we're gonna get the reveal and subsequent release of Diamond and Pearl remakes on the Nintendo Switch, and hopefully they turn out great, just like all the fans' hopes and dreams want them to be. So what do you think of my list of 10 questions for the Nintendo Switch? Do you think some of these things that I mentioned today are likely to release next year, or do you think some of them are just completely crazy? Let me know down below, and let me know some of your own predictions as well. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to see new content when it releases. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.